recorded.
Okay. For quick information, first things first. Hey guys, Came from 15 back with another Clippers video. I don't want to be doing this, but typically I'm not going to be doing this for every matchup game for really, you know, every game this playoff series or however long the Clippers go on. I just felt like I just needed to do this because even though what I still think was a bad loss yesterday, I'm recording this Sunday. This is going to go up Monday during the day. But listen, yes, it's all bad. It's freaking, the loss was horrible. I didn't like it. It definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. Funny enough, some background information. I actually threw up last night. So maybe that was my way of washing out the bad taste of that Clippers loss out. But I feel much better right now, but I still feel a little queasy. Anyways, I'm here to give my game 2 preview. Again, I'm not gonna do game previews for every game this series, but the reason why I feel like I need to do a game 2 preview here is because right now the Clippers could be looking into probably one of the most important games of their season, and that is going back on Tuesday night in Staples in a must-win game 2 to send the series against the Dallas Mavericks to a 1-1 tie. So I'm going to give 3 points the Clippers can do better to better prepare for Game 2's rematch against the Dallas Mavericks, and hopefully these points give them a W. Now, the more I sat back on it and slept on it, yes, I was frustrated. If you watch my game recap, I was clearly visibly frustrated. But now that I sat on it, I'm kind of A-okay. I'm feeling a little bit better. The loss still stings, but I definitely now believe that the Clippers can win this series. They just have to tune up some things defensively, fix up the rotations on who gets what minutes, and hopefully, again, which is one of the many points, is shooters start hitting shots, and guys in the Dallas Mavericks, yes, okay, they can hit shots, but not at the high clip they were hitting. Like they were like shooting like above 50%, which isn't going to be sustainable for an entire playoff series. And if we really think the Clippers are going to be at a low shooting percentage like they were, especially from 3, that ain't going to happen either. So let's get into the game plan. Obviously, I'm going to go from, I guess, prioritizing the most or least prioritizing the most to the most prioritization. Now, I'm going to actually show some film. Hopefully, I do not get copyright stricken for it. But anyways, so what the first point is, obviously, I'm going to talk about the offense. The offense is probably, I guess you can say, the least of my concerns at this point. There's more other things for the Clippers to be concerned about and worried about than really offense. The offense wasn't good yet on last night or Sunday afternoon. Okay, we know that. Some guys shot the ball that weren't going to shoot. Again, we missed more threes than we made threes because typically those shots, most of the shots, in the game were pretty good looks. They just didn't fall. Well, you have Dallas in most parts. Not many of the three-point shots were open. They were mostly contested, and they just made that. Again, good defense, just better shot. So I guess for that aspect, you're going to live with Dallas making those tough contested shots. I don't mind Dallas. The problem I have with Dallas, which I'm going to talk about the defensive side, is the wide open looks and stuff like that. Now, the thing about the Clippers is they're not going to go cold from 3 like that again. I hope not for the rest of the series. I hope they can occasionally hit a really good 3. I hope the offense actually is better in the aspect when we have a lead and we need to expand it. Remember, guys, although I still say the Clippers lost that game for other reasons, the Clippers could have pulled that game out of the jaws of defeat. They were up at a point late in that game, and they just went cold because they weren't getting efficient shots. They made things hard on them. They were just chucking up threes, or they took a tough, ill-advised shot. There was also a charge call in there that should have been called a blocking foul that could have helped expanded the lead. And that's the one thing the Clippers offense needs to do. When they have a chance to expand the lead, the Clippers need to use that offense, play a smart offense, and expand the lead and hit the shots. Again, it's kind of rinse and repeat from my series preview of just hitting the key shots when the shots need to be hit, you know? So that's one thing. Obviously, offensively, Paul George get going, not another completely half. He needs to get going from the jump. So if that's getting him in some, plays where he's driving to the rim to get him comfortable, fine. Because Paul George cannot go essentially 4 points in a whole half. Because at some point I was literally scratching my head. I'm like, shit. Pandemic P, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Personally, you shouldn't be calling it Pandemic P, but whatever. If Paul George is going to give me this performance like he's not going to show up in the playoffs, then the Clippers are screwed anyways. Marcus Morris Sr., I need to see a much better game out of him. At least get up to 10 points, for crying out loud. The dude had 2 points this previous game. He needs to really step up his play because we're paying him too much money to go and play horribly in the playoffs. If he had at least the same amount of points as a Jalen Brunson or a Dorian Finney-Smith, Clippers win that game. Most of the shots he threw up were good looks. They just weren't going in. So that's another thing that needs to definitely be cleaned up, offensively. That's the thing. Another thing actually, that's more of the rotation stuff. Yeah, that's kind of just it for me offensively. Like I said, it's the least of my concerns. The Clippers should bounce back in game 2 offensively and should shoot the ball better offensively. We'll just see when the time comes. So hopefully they're getting smart and efficient shots. And hopefully the threes, if they have a wide open 3, they start falling. The next point to make is the rotations held by Ty Lue. Now, obviously, I got in on the rotations and how they were mishandled in the aspect of Reggie Jackson. Now, I'm not going to scream at the top of my lungs because, one, I'm not feeling too well myself right now because, again, like I said, I just threw up last night. I'm still feeling a little queasy. So as I take my sip of water. Okay. So the rotation management needs to be better. First things first, I think all of us can agree the Clippers need to take Reggie Jackson out of the rotation, the playoff rotation, for good. I don't care if you're a Reggie Jackson fan, you're saying, but that's just one game. Who doesn't know if you can show up? I don't care. The Mavericks clearly exploited Reggie Jackson continuously and every time because they know Reggie Jackson is essentially chicken fingers for us. We're just licking our fingers every time he's in the game. We're going to continually target him so the Clippers finally realize that they need to take him out and not play him. So that's the first thing Ty Lue needs to do. Now, how the minutes are handled with that, either you give those minutes to Patrick Beverley or you give those minutes or split some of those minutes between Patrick Beverley, Terrence Mann, or Luke Kennard. Again, I said Luke Kennard is not the best defensive guy. He could definitely be a guy that gets picked on. But if Luke Kennard is being efficient on offense, the defensive issues, yes, they're going to be there. But at least I'm like, okay, he's hitting shots, so you got to keep him in the game at least. Terrence Mann, he plays some pretty solid defense, and he's got a nice offensive game. He'll drive when he needs to drive, and he'll hit a spot-up 3. Personally, I'm more to believe Terrence Mann should get those minutes. I would say split the 21 minutes between Beverley and Mann. I think Beverley played like 12 minutes. So give, maybe Bev 3 of those Reggie Jackson minutes, which would get him to 15 minutes, and Mann would have 17 minutes. That's fine with me. Personally, I think the Clippers should play Terrence Mann because every time I watch him, he comes in positively. So I think Ty Lue needs to make that adjustment. Another adjustment rotation-wise Ty Lue needs to make is stop running the small ball. Just stop running the small ball, please, and thank you. The small ball does not work against this team when they have a Porzingis who's a 7-footer, and your fifth center, your center at the 5 is going to be Marcus Morris. You saw late in the game when the Clippers needed to get those rebounds, those key rebounds, to be able to help them take the lead or help them get a defensive stop. They rarely got those rebounds because guess what? You have too small of guys in there. Stop with the small ball lineup and put either Zubac or Ibaka, who I believe in that game did not play a lot. Zubac, even though he was getting targeted by Luka, I believe should have played more minutes. And you had Dorian Finney-Smith in his press conference cackling the fact that, oh, yeah, when Zubac's in the game, we like that matchup and we'll do that. Okay, make them pay for that. Zubac is pretty decent on the offensive side of the thing. And if you need a post score to go to, well, there you go. Or what I thought is what the Clippers should have definitely did, instead of bring Marcus Morris back in, they should have ran and ended the lineup with the lineup of what we saw before the small ball lineup came in to close up the game, and that was the lineup of Rondo, Paul George, Kawhi, Ibaka, and Batum. I was fine with that lineup. That lineup was actually the lineup that got the Clippers the lead. So why go away from that, Ty Lue? I think Ty Lue might need to have shorter leashes on players that are not showing up and not doing anything consistently and say, hey, take a seat down. You're not going to be playing because you're not giving me anything offensively or nothing really defensively. So take a seat down, which is what he should have did to Marcus Morris and Reggie Jackson in game 1. Have more of a tighter leash for Zoo and Ibaka, because guess what? It's only going to be freaking better if you do that and you have a rim protector there. Ibaka, you could say he's a part of a small ball lineup because guess what? That's why we brought him here. So listen, I don't care what center it is. It could be Zoo or Ibaka. Again, maybe Ty Lue should just stuck with that lineup of Rondo, Paul George, Kawhi, Batum, and Morris. I'm not Morris and Ibaka, because that was the lineup that got us the lead in the first place. And they were playing some pretty solid defense. So I think Ty Lue also needs to have a longer leash on the centers and at least have a center in all time during the game to provide rim protection, because they clearly, frustrated Porzingis, and it gives you a rim protector because they don't want to drive in and get blocked and stuff like that. So that's another thing I got to point out. Now, the last thing that we need to point out is obviously, I would say, the most important thing to point out. And the fact is this. The fact is, I think the Clippers need to do a better job defensively. On Sunday afternoon was not one of their best defensive efforts. Again, I said in my game recap, there was only a few times I pulled some defensive, spots where the Clippers rotated, honestly, got perfectly. And in one of the videos, clips of the game, this was one of the more positive defensive plays, which will say the Clippers need to do more of, and stuff like that. Now, the thing is this. The Clippers, first things first, is their defensive strategy is how are they going to guard Luka Doncic? That's the one thing, and I think that's the first thing the Clippers need to find out. In the game on Sunday, the Clippers had multiple things. At first, I thought maybe throwing multiple looks will work, but no, this team is too, for some dumbass reason, idiotic to communicate with each other and do things, which there is a clip that'll show you that there was a fault on communication there. The thing is, what the Clippers need to do is this. There are two strategies on how the Clippers can play Luka Doncic at this point. The first point is what I recommended. Either you double and you trap Luka Doncic and you just rotate to the next defender when he passes it out, which means, AKA, you double Luka Doncic and you just have a Dallas Mavericks player shoot the ball and see if they'll beat you. That, I'm fine with living from that. Or the second point is you just play straight up defense, one-on-one defense. You put whoever's guarding Luka Doncic, you keep him on an island, All the other defenders, you stay on your man, you stay on your dude like glue, and make sure they do not give any open spaces for Luka Doncic to pass. You have Luka Doncic be the main ball operator and just let him do what he needs to do, and then you just live with the results. If he makes the shot, he makes the shot. If he doesn't make the shot, he doesn't make the you'll take it. You just got to rebound the ball off that missed shot too. Now, I think you can do a little combination of the both, but I think what the Clippers need to do is you can do the combination of the both, but you need to have one centralized core game plan. And it's either one of those two. Now, what's the positive in both of those occasions? In the first one, by doubling Luka Doncic, you get the ball out of his hand, so he's not doing much. With the Clippers, near the tail end of the second half, started to do, and you saw Luka Doncic barely do anything. I think he only had 1 point in that second half after the Clippers started doubling and trapping him and stuff like that. The problem with that is the role players started to get heat up because Luka Doncic was already, hitting shots and making shots, which already gave the role players confidence. So the positive is this: he's gonna make the pass out of there, and you live with what the role players are going to do. Now, I don't believe a guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Jalen Brunson, and Tim Hardaway Jr. are going to make some of the shots they're going to make in the game. The Dallas Mavericks shot above 50% from three. That's not going to happen. That's definitely not going to happen again. If that happens, credit to Dallas for just hitting their shots. And that just sucks. But the thing is, in that strategy, you live with what the role players do. I'm personally fine with that strategy. I'm kind of more leaning to the strategy number 2, which is whoever's guarding Luka, just leave him on an island, and you do the best you can guarding Luka. Everybody else, stay on your man. Do not look away from them, unless Luka's about to get a shot up and stuff like that. If he's driving in, he's driving in, and you just live with the results if he makes or misses the layup or the pull-up jumper. I say everyone stay on glue on your man. So if you're on Tim Hardaway Jr., stick to that guy. Do not get caught looking inside of what Luka's doing. Stay on your dude. Just look at your guy and move on there. Another thing, too, is when the Mavericks are operating pick and rolls, I would like some of the Clippers, and I understand the Clippers are switching things up. And they're switching everything. But I would appreciate if every now and then in the game, especially in game 2 and even more games going in the series, if the Clippers just fight over the screen and just be like, you know what, screw this. Screw the switch. Stay on your man. Stay on the roll guy. I'll get Luka, and I'll fight over the screen. Personally, I say do that occasionally unless you're really getting beat by it. If it's getting to the point where Luka's missing shots and making shots, but missing shots too, you'll live with the fighting over the screen. So, I won't mind I think the Clippers should do that because there's been several occasions that maybe sometimes switching everything up isn't the best way to go. Maybe the best thing to do is fight over that screen and taking more of initiative to get over the screen, stay on Luka Doncic on the move, and guess what? You'll be good. And 2, the person who's going to try to pick up Luka, maybe what they can do is be up on Luka, and the moment the pick and roll guy goes, you go back, you rotate back to the roll guy, and which should create enough time for the guy fighting over the screen to catch up and be able to get back in front of Luka. We'll see if the Clippers will do that and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of anything else before I show the clips. No, there's nothing really else. That's kind of it. Just sticking to a game plan defensively and having that game plan and stick with it the entire game. I'm not saying the Clippers can't mix it up sometimes, but clearly you can see that sometimes they did do that mix up. It got the defense, they made the defense of the Clippers be able to be all out of warts, and they weren't communicating on what to do next. I think maybe the Clippers might need to have the approach, since they got the IQ of, 10, to stick with one approach and go with it. And if Lucas, say, switches on to Zubac and he's killing it, guess what? You live with the results, even though I know everybody in their hair is going to be like, you got to take Zoo out of the game. He's getting cooked. You still got to remember, those are good contested looks. Lucas just making a better shot over a 7-foot man. So the thing is too, that's one thing. In those aspects too, the first thing when guarding Luka is this. Listen, if he's hitting threes, I know he's not a good three-point shooter, but honestly, I'd rather have him hitting twos. Listen, I think with the Clippers defenders, whoever is guarding Luka, what they need to do, and Rondo did this occasionally, is they get up into Luka and force him to drive the ball, put the ball on the floor and drive. Instead of when you back off and give him some space, Luka's just going to dribble and then pull it up in your face, which is what Zubac did occasionally because he's not trying to pick up fouls. I don't care how tall or how slow Zubac is when it comes to recovering. Get up on Luka Doncic, create little space where he can't pull up from three, and do that. Do that, and maybe you'll put the ball on the floor. Two, with the strategy of doing that, making Luka try to beat you by himself, it's only going to tire Luka out. And I forgot to mention in my offensive theme, get the matchups you want. So what I mean by matchups is find a matchup that a player is strong against. So obviously one of the matchups is either get a smaller guy on you or make Luka or get somebody, an offensively skilled person to get Luka Doncic switched onto them. And by that, guess what? You make Luka work on defense at the same time. If you're having him work to try to essentially get shots up so hard, he's going to eventually tire out. And eventually by the time he tires out, maybe some of those shots start to go flat. And maybe some of the shots he makes early in the game doesn't happen. And if the role players are not hitting shots, that's only going to help you. So maybe the Clippers might need to do that approach of just, you know what? We'll live with what Luka does. The others can't get involved. And stuff like that. And it would be a way to maybe tire Luka Doncic out. So anyways, there's going to be a quick pause or quick cut. I'm going to get to some of the videos. So yeah, see you guys in a bit. Okay, guys, back with the clip. Obviously, I found this off Twitter thanks to the Twitter handler Steve Jones Jr. As I get into the full screen over here, as it loads up, I'm going to show some plays of this Clippers game in some matchups. Now, if I look back to it, I need to see which one play this is. Now, this is one of the more, okay, I got this. Okay, so this was one of the defensive plays where the Clippers matched up on that wasn't the best. Now, I know the settings or the graphic imaging isn't the best. So if you guys remember, this was the play when it looked like the Clippers successfully trapped Luka Doncic. He was able to pass to Dorian Finney-Smith, and that's when at that point, when it was a tight game 100-100, as you see on your screen, that's when Dorian Finney-Smith hit the three to essentially get the Dallas Mavericks to go up and essentially start their closeout of the game against the Clippers. So let's start and talk one by one. Well, obviously, you see Rondo pick up here. The Clipper. Hold on, let me go back. Let me go back to that. Okay, so let me go back. So hold on, got to go a little farther. Making this on the fly, guys. Making this on the fly. If I could do it slower, I would. Now, obviously, you see the Mavericks set that double screen. Now, let me pause right here and go right back. Okay, now I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but you see the double screen set. As I'm rotating a little bit back. So the double, okay. So right here, the double screen is set. So you have Rondo here, you have Kleber here, you have what I believe Tim Hardaway Jr. I can't see it because it's still a little blurry. Setting the screen on Morris. Now Morris, what he does is we see him fight over the screen of Luka Doncic, which I've advocated, and I just said it not too long ago, fight over the screen. Now you have Rondo here, who's just going to stay with obviously Tim Hardaway Jr., who's going to rotate down here to the center court of the field, or of the center part of the court, to look for a wide open three because he thinks Rondo's going to rotate with Kleber. Now, there's two things the Clippers could have did in this defensive possession. Now, let's go watch the mix-up here, or the mess-up here by, obviously, Batum, who I thought played a good game, but this is a critique here. Watch closely. There you go. Now, again, it's gonna replay again automatically again. I'm gonna pause right here. Now, the thing here is this. If you slow it down closer, which I will slow it down as I go back. So right here, you see as I'm moving slowly, you see Rondo. I know it's not good, but Rondo is trying to communicate to Batum, hey, Batum, pick up the roller, which is Maxi Kleber. He's clearly rolling to the basket, cutting in. You have Paul George right here, who's supposed to do his job in guarding the three-point line, which he should be a little bit more closer to Dorian Finney-Smith. So you have Rondo telling Batum to clearly guard Kleber. Batum does not hear this. He does not communicate effectively with Rondo, so he doesn't do this. Instead, what he does is, instead of letting Morris guard Luka one-on-one and playing it man up, Batum, instead of guarding Kleber and going down with Kleber, as you can see later, as the play starts to develop, as we're moving down, he totally tries to pick up Batum. You see Batum picking up Luka, which he's not supposed to do. Now you see Luka, now who we know is a gifted passer, have two options to go to. We see he later goes to Dorian Finney-Smith, but he has a wide open lane right here for Kleber running right then and there, and Paul George could pick it up. Now, if he got the ball, all he had to do was catch it and then throw it to Dorian Finney-Smith, who was wide open for three. This is the communication I'm talking about the Clippers need to have better on defense. Rondo's clearly telling Batum, hey, you needed to get Kleber on the roll guy. Because guess what? As I said, you can go back. You have Hardaway coming down from his screen, and Rondo's going to pick him up. There's one guy open, technically two guys open from this point. Now, guess what? Because of this forces Morris to have to get Hardaway. Rondo has to pick up the slack for Batum. And now, but you got Batum guarding. Then it also doesn't help even longer because guess what? PG now, because Rondo might get there too slow, PG's going to have to rotate over to Kleber to pick him up, which then we see as I hit the play button. As you see, Luka creates a cross-court pass to Dorian Finney-Smith, three, right in your face, and that starts the run for the Dallas Mavericks. That was one of the many dumb defensive plays that that the Clippers had there, and stuff like that. Now, as I go to another defensive play here, that was definitely an issue. Now, this is what Steve Jones Jr. says in the tweet. This was actually good initial defense from the Clippers. Rondo navigates the first screen. Second screen, Zubac stunts to Luka, but then recovers to Kleber rolling. Beverly helps. Rondo rotates, but never truly match back up. The drive happens and kicks open an open three. Now let's watch this clip again as I go into the fold. Now here you see, obviously you have Rondo fights over the screen. He picks up Kleber, then fights over the screen. There you go. Passes Richardson. Everybody rotates perfectly. Everything's perfectly at this point. Then there you go. Wide open three by Kleber. Now let's pause the thing. So again, everything up to this point was good. As you can see, Rondo passes it off to Zoo. Zoo stands there, just drops a bit, and was waiting for Kleber to go down. Then you have Rondo come back up, pick him up, and then guess what? Then Kleber gets it, but the pass is too much for Kleber to handle. Then he passes it back out to, I believe that is Jason Richardson. He doesn't do anything because Rondo rotates accurately back to him. Good. Jason Richardson passes it back out to Doncic. Kawhi picks him up. Doncic drives on Kawhi, Then you see, obviously, okay, here you go. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have 4 Clippers right there who can arguably trap him. Technically, Beverly's right there. He could try to match up and try to take a charge as Luka's driving in. And you have Conrad who has slightly come in on Luka. I would advise Morris could come in a bit, but I advise him stay with Porzingis here. Because you could clearly see Luka also has many options here. He could either pass it out or he could pass it. Personally, he could have just did a right here. He could have probably did a bounce pass and maybe Porzingis gets for the dunk here. But obviously, as you see, then most of the defense starts to close in on Luka. But there's one thing that happens which catches the defense falling asleep. Now you have 1, 2, 3 Clippers right then in the area. So guess what? Here, Luka's essentially going to have to stop right here. But within the corner of his eye, because guess what? Zubac wasn't paying attention. He leaves Maxi Kleber open for 3, and he doesn't rotate over. And because of it, boom. And this guy, and Dorian Finney-Smith, who was essentially, if you go back earlier in that play, he was out of bounds right here. So there was nothing he could have did. Nothing really he could have did. So Zubac, what he should have did is he should have just rotated over to Kleber and then picked him up. And obviously, as you can see, wide open 3 for Kleber, make. So again, another defensive but a great start on defense, another bad way to end a really good possession. Now, probably one of the best defensive possessions in the game here. And again, I'm praying that I don't get copyright stricken for this. So again, Steve Jones Jr. says, really good activity from the Clippers here, and I like the adjustment. Switch Zubac onto Luka, but double right away before he can catch a rhythm. Great rotations out of this. Good help on the drive, another recovery, end up forcing a turnover. So let's go look the play, which again, like I said, was one of the best defensive plays in the game. One of the ones I counted. Now let's watch the first game before I start slowing it down. So you have Zubac pick it up. Then you bring the double right then and there. Rotate, rotate. There you go. Rotate right there. Dorian Finney-Smith has nowhere to go. Passes out of bounds right then and there. So let's pause the video and walk it one by one here, guys, before we end this video off. So you have obviously Porzingis setting the screen. So Ty Lue says we're going to switch things up. Well, guess what? Okay, here you go. You have Zubac pick up Luka Doncic. And at this point, he was somewhat torching him. Then the moment before Luka gets into his rhythm of what he wants to do, and that's either stepping back for 3 or looking like he's going to drive in, you bring the next defender. I don't know who it is because you can't see it very well, but the next defender comes in. And technically, this is damn near almost a triple team. You have this defender here, this defender, Zubac right here, and I believe that's Kawhi right here. And Luka has nowhere to go. So right there, you bring an automatic double team right there. Honestly, dang triple team. So right now, Luka's trapped. Okay. Then Luka's going to forcefully make the pass. And as you see, he passes out there. Now you have this Clipper rotate over, smart, to pick up that so he doesn't give a wide open 3. Then you have Zubac rotating over to, I believe, I think that's Hardaway. I don't know who that is. Again, it's too blurry to see. But you have Zubac rotate over. Great rotation right here. That's great communication right then and there. That forces a drive, I believe. Then another pass made, as I'm going slow motion here, to Dorian Finney-Smith. But then Patrick Beverly does the good job in not staying too much in the lane, rotating over Dorian Finney-Smith to not give Dorian Finney-Smith the wide open 3. Right there, Dorian Finney-Smith is trapped. He doesn't know where to go. And then Patrick Beverly forces Dorian Finney-Smith into a tough pass to try to get into that corner. There's 2 Dallas Mavericks here. And the pass is too tough to make. That looks like Richardson. Richardson can't get a hold of the ball. And anyways, it would have been too late if he managed to grab the ball. Guess what? Marcus Morris is right there up in his face. So it doesn't matter. If he caught the ball, there's like, as you can see on the clock, there's like 3.7 seconds left of blurry as it can, if you can see. And then guess what? Turnover. There you go. So as I'm ending my share of the screen, those were some of the best. That was probably one of the best defensive plays. The Clippers can clean up the 2 defensive plays I showed you where they messed up there. There you go. But more of that last defensive play I showed you, which was one of the best defensive positions, it forced Dell into a turnover and stuff like that. But I think those are some of the keys I have in the Clippers getting this Game 2 W. Hopefully you guys like the video. Hopefully the NBA doesn't copyright strike me because I'm showing footage of theirs, but we'll see what happens. Otherwise, I'll have to be taking this video down. Other than that, that's it. So if you guys like the video, leave a like. Put in the comment section if you want me to do more game previews of looking back at certain parts of film and discussing what Clippers should do in the next game. And hit that subscribe button if you want to get more Clippers game recap. I know our Clippers content. Again, thank you guys for the support on the Clippers game recap. I know I got a lot of views for that Clippers game recap. But other than that, guys, if you guys like the video, leave a like. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Until then, guys, I'll see you guys for Tuesday's night's game recap against the Dallas Mavericks. Till then, guys, peace.